And I think it just kind of highlights the importance when you're, when you're in this creative process, who you're allowing to use your music. So in the UK, for example, one of the main licensing bodies won't automatically grant a license for political purposes. You need to, be able to have that permission from the artist, and that gives them a bit more control.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the FT studios for this week's episode of the PWM Tea Break with our special guest, Claire Breheny, an award-winning lawyer who is head of trademarks at London-based European intellectual property firm Mathys Squire. Welcome to the studios, Claire, and which kind of tea have you gone for today?
I always used to drink tea, but I've recently switched over to coffee, so yeah, that's what I'm going with today.
Is it the juniors that are sent out for the coffee run to Starbucks?
We tend to get our own teas and coffees now. I travel to the US quite a lot, and you can't get decaf tea over there, so I was like, I'm going to have to make myself like coffee. So that's where we've ended up, and I actually now prefer it. So
we've had a lot of legal disputes between the various brands. There's the famous one, Sandbox versus Starbucks. Oh, you wrote a brilliant piece for us together with your colleague Tanya Rahman about the importance of a family name when it comes to brands, and specifically referring to the Beckham family. I mean, this isn't anything new because we've seen this with the Rothschilds, with the Ambanis in India, with the Gucci family as well.
Not only is it the brand, it is actually someone's own personal identity. And I think the key thing with any, family brand, whether it's one that's being built or one that's already existing, is to have agreements in place ahead of time. So you can't always predict every situation, but to at least say, if we get approached by someone to buy this brand, how are we going to deal with that? If one of our siblings wants to use the brand, how are they allowed to use just the surname? Do they have to use with their first name? What kind of associations do we want to have with our brand? Actually doing that and putting the work in initially, there's always going to be issues where, family members might feel that they're being treated unfairly or whatever. But if you've kind of got something agreed ahead of time, it does kind of help to try and diffuse situations, because we've all agreed that this is how we will treat this brand or name going forwards.
Sadly, Ozzy Osbourne, the Black Sabbath singer, he died at the end of last year, leaving a vast catalogue of music behind him. And there's different branches of the family in different countries, some in the US, all this cross-jurisdictional work. And I'm sure that's something that you have to do.
From my perspective, you want to have a host of advisors who, are working together and not independently. You need them all to be talking to each other so you can get sort of like a holistic picture. And, there might be something the lawyers suggest and seems like a great idea, but then the wealth management are like, no, that's a terrible idea. So you kind of need to have experts in all areas, I think.
Michael Jarvis wrote for us about the political risk which families face now, because a lot of these reputable jurisdictions and their legal systems, they're under attack now from the politicians.
We're a UK and EU law firm, and we will sort of advise our clients there, where we are, advising sort of our multinationals, we would kind of be like the quarterback counsellors, it's sort of termed, where we would be managing, the client and the brand as a whole, but then we would get advice specifically in jurisdictions from local experts. And it works the other way around as well. So I'll do a lot of work for US businesses, some very quirky things in UK law, for example, that, wouldn't be something that a US attorney would think about. So I think having a good network really helps in those kind of situations.
Claire, there are more and more investment funds and family offices now investing in intellectual property, in software and in music rights, which is becoming quite a popular asset class. And I met with the next generation of the Village People recently, who coined the famous YMCA song in the 1970s. And there's some disputes because I know that President Trump wanted to use their songs in his campaign trail, and some of the family members were not happy with that.
When, IP law came into force, it didn't sort of prepare for the scenarios we're in today. The media's moved on, politics have moved on, how politicians, interact with music and things like that. So I feel that there's a bit of a gap as to what people can do from a legal perspective, i.e. they've got the right licences, the venue that they're in has got the right licences, versus how the artist feels about how their track is being treated. And I think it just kind of highlights the importance when you're in this creative process, who you're allowing to use your music. So in the UK, for example, one of the main licensing bodies won't automatically grant a licence for political purposes. You need to, be able to have that permission from the artist, and that gives them a bit more control.
And of course, you're an accomplished musician yourself, Claire, a demon on the keyboards, I hear. And if we're looking at which are the inspiring songs that are related to these legal disputes, I'm thinking maybe I Fought the Law and the Law Won with Bobby Fuller, or Frankie Goes to Hollywood, When Two Tribes Go to War. Which are the songs that you'll recall that particularly match the work you do?
Billie Eilish has got a song called Copycat, which is written about someone, copying her. And another one that I thought about was the Aretha Franklin song, Respect, because obviously you need to respect others' rights and what they have in their brands. And that case actually was, there was an interesting backstory to that she didn't actually get the royalties from that song because she was the performer, not the songwriter. So there was copyright law at the time which didn't allow for that. It's moved on now.
And we've got a message just come in from another lawyer, and she talks about having worked with the Rothschild family before and a very important financial services brand in her early days. She said, this really opened my eyes on how IP expertise can resolve complex issues of rights, whether in a family setting or a business setup. Do you think that sometimes the family businesses really don't pay enough attention to the intellectual property and the structures around it?
This plays out when there ends up being a dispute, because it's then, where do the rights sit, who's, got the goodwill, and actually if more attention was paid, this could be preempted. We don't need to have a dispute about this because it's already been agreed, structured. There might be an OpCo that looks after the IP separately. So yeah, I do think it's something that people need to think more carefully about.
Well, I think there's certainly no dispute that the family names and the legacy, they're becoming increasingly important in our business of wealth management. So thank you very much, Claire, for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And unfortunately, I have to bring our broadcast to a close, but I'm already getting excited about next week's show. As always, please do send in your questions, and I look forward to seeing you for the next episode of the PWM Tea Break.